It's going to be John Jenkins and Morgan Bartley on the front row of the grid. Of course, it's a reverse grid from race number 1. The race winner, Greg Jenkins, is starting in 6th. The lights go out. The race gets underway for 20 minutes here at Donington Park, and it's a good stop by Morgan Bartley there from the outside of the front row. He's moved into the lead of the race. It's Paul Jenkins that slotted into 2nd spot there. John Jenkins is 3rd. 4th is Greg Jenkins. 5th is the number 78 car as well, but we've had a moment as a collision, and it's John Jenkins around again. It's the Dean Stockton car, number 78, that's a little bit involved in that as well, but is back. It's Oscar Joyce, I should say, in this race, isn't it? Oscar Joyce, not Dean Stockton, racing the car this time out. But that means we've got 2 cars out in front, Josh, and then a big gap.
Yeah, and the leader's a bit wide here, Morgan Bartley. So for Greg Jenkins, he's really going to have to push on this time, isn't he? Assuming the car is all well after that incident he had at Redgate Corner. He was pretty dominant in race 1. Is Oscar Joyce the guy that raced Radicals who's sharing that car, or is it a different driver?
I don't know for certain.
So we'll see if he comes through or not. That might just describe that one, because he's out in the Dean Stockton car from race number 1. But here are the top 2, they are together. That's Bartley and Jenkins P, isn't it? Paul Jenkins. Greg Jenkins is almost 3rd already. He's alongside Stuart Coombs at Coppice Corner. 2 former champions here going side by side down towards the Robert chicane. But for the lead, it's going to be Paul Jenkins that takes the lead of the race. So he leads, although he's very sideways, into the chicane. But it is Paul Jenkins that leads for the first time, I think, in Mighty Minis racing. In 2nd is Morgan Bartley. 3rd is Greg Jenkins. But they're side by side for the lead again. So Morgan Bartley is fighting back as they head off toward Redgate Corner. Bartley's on the inside, and Morgan Bartley reclaims the lead. So Paul Jenkins led for all of a few metres.
Yeah, but it's boding well for a good battle between these 2 throughout the race. 10th of a second between them at the start of the lap, but they've reversed positions since then. And we've got last couple of cars have come through. Yet 7 cars still circulating. It's James Jenkins that's at the rear of the field. Of course, he retired to the pit lane in race 1. There's the 77 car of Paul Jenkins in 2nd position, chasing after Morgan Bartley in the lead of this race. Morgan Bartley had a best result of 2nd place last season on the international circuit at Silverstone, so looking to go one better here in the opening meeting of the season at Donington Park in the 2026 Mighty Mini Championship. Bit of a gap, but not as big of a gap to number 7, Greg Jenkins, because he's made up the best part of 3 seconds on this lap already, and that's where his experience has really come into play. He was about 3 seconds a lap faster than anyone else in qualifying, and he's kind of proved the point here as Paul Jenkins goes down the inside of Morgan Bartley into the Robert chicane for the 2nd time, and Paul Jenkins gets the lead of the race back. But I get the feeling again it's not going to hold on to it for too much longer. Yeah,
it may not be Morgan Bartley this time. That's the one that comes through, though. Greg Jenkins is on the charge, and we thought he might be the runner-up from last year and the champion from 2016. Morgan Bartley is going to give it a go to be the driver that passes Paul Jenkins, but it doesn't work out for him. So it is P. Jenkins that leads, and Bartley and G. Jenkins in 3rd. Stuart Coombs not far away either. He was several tenths of a second quicker than the 2 leaders. So if Paul Jenkins is able to hang on here, we could have 4 cars to the lead of the race before too much longer. Through the old hairpin they go, with Morgan Bartley hanging on for now in that 2nd position from the Hereford man Greg Jenkins. Yes, Stuart Coombs is getting closer, the driver from Wiltshire, making it 4 minis in this lead battle. Just going to show the type of racing we could have in the Mighty Minis Championship when we get the grids a bit bigger as the season goes on, and the Jenkins family working hard to ensure that will be the case for the future rounds of the Mighty Minis Championship, because these classic style minis always create great racing at whatever track they're at, really. And change of 2nd is on the cards here, because Greg Jenkins is on the inside line of Morgan Bartley. Stuart Coombs is involved in this as well. And the lead cars are going to go off the road here. Paul Jenkins had put some gap between himself and the rest, but He just got it a bit crossed up through the first part of the chicane, went off the circuit through the second part of the chicane, and has lost the lead to Greg Jenkins. But Oscar Joyce has set the fastest lap of the race. I'm not sure how much he's driven this car today, possibly not at all. I believe the former Radical front runner, and Oscar Joyce then he's going to charge, I think, his way up the order. And so Greg Jenkins, he can't afford to sort of hang back too much because he might have a new competitor he wasn't expecting.
Yeah, absolutely. OJ, as he's known, Oscar Joyce, is the fastest man on the circuit, 1:31.738, and he could get himself into contention. This could actually be quite an interesting, race that shapes up here. 14.5 minutes to go, so there's still plenty of time left. You've got Paul Jenkins, Stuart Coombs and Morgan Bartley second, third and fourth. Greg Jenkins is 6 turns per second at the start of the lap up the road, but it's probably getting on for 2 seconds now, I would suggest. I think the next 3 cars are probably falling over one another a little bit, aren't they, as Stuart Coombs moves up into second place now at McLean's there. He's got up on the inside of Paul Jenkins, and we saw these two battling in the earlier race, didn't we?
I wonder
for second and third place.
I wonder if that off that Paul Jenkins had at the chicane in the last lap just put him off a little bit, because he hasn't got the pace he did have, because he was pulling away from this group. And actually that mistake for Paul Jenkins might be more frustrating for Oscar Joyce than anybody else, because it means that Greg Jenkins has been able to get away. Now Paul's going to fight back here, but with that knowledge of the slide he had here 1 lap ago, so Stuart Coombs swings into the chicane ahead of Jenkins and then Bartley, and now Oscar Joyce has caught them, and he's going to have a go at passing all of them in one go, as he's alongside 2 of them on the way down towards Redgate. He was quicker than Greg Jenkins on that lap, so proving that a race win is not off the cards here, and he's going to get 2 in 1 at Redgate, is he? He's alongside Paul Jenkins, and he is now ahead. So how different is this to racing Radicals though? So such different cars. Almost a different sport, isn't it?
Yeah.
But proving if you're quick in something, you can be quick in pretty much anything.
Yeah, lots of transferable skills, that's for certain. So we are working lap 5 of the race. Morgan Bartley in the green car now at the rear of this group, having dropped back to 5th position.
John Jenkins is catching him as well, so John's going really well in this race, isn't he? He had those moments in race 1, but he's going quicker than the group ahead. He's on a 1:32.3, which is quite a bit quicker than he went earlier on today, about a second or so. So he'll be frustrated that the start didn't go to plan, because a podium would have been quite possible if he didn't have that moment at Redgate. Redgate's his bogey corner, isn't it? He's had a few moments there over the course of the day, but the rest of the track really good.
Yeah, that's right. James Jenkins is struggling around. He's about sort of nearly 20 seconds off the pace, but he's driving around presumably to pick up some points in the championship. There he is, in fact, just going for a shot there with the number 32 car about to be lapped for the first time by the race leader, Greg Jenkins. Goes on to lap number 6 of the race. He's 2.6 seconds clear of the rest. James Jenkins, in fact, has just headed into the pit lane, so he looks to be out of the race.
Stuart Coombs was fractionally quicker than the leader that time, so if he and Oscar Joyce work together, they might be able to catch Greg Jenkins. The gap isn't anywhere near as big as it was in race 1, really, at any point. So with 12 minutes of the race to go, they plunge downhill, down towards the old hairpin. It's an iconic shot, that, isn't it, here at Donington Park. You sort of think back when they used a slightly different part of the circuit in the 1930s, when you had pre-war Grand Prix cars, Mercedes and Auto Union racing here at Donington Park. It's the only circuit that's still in operation that had those types of cars racing on it, although it's a slightly different layout nowadays. And so important, really, that Donington Park was revived in the 1970s, because it's one of the main racing tracks in the UK and one of many people's favourites.
Yeah, and of course it's probably 15 years ago that we were in danger of losing it again, and it's very much a relief that that didn't happen, and that it's now being very successfully run by Motorsport Vision here at Donington Park. So coming up to the halfway point in this race, Morgan Bartley there under a bit of pressure now from John Jenkins. This is the 5th position.
He's gone past Paul Jenkins.
Sorry, Paul Jenkins, I beg your pardon. John Jenkins just coming through shots now. So Bartley's back up to 4th. Oscar Joyce is catching Stuart Coombs. Yeah, did another fast lap of the race, that time on 1:31.099. about 4 tenths quicker than Coombs, but about 2 tenths quicker than the race leader.
And that's despite Greg Jenkins doing his fastest lap in racing conditions today. So Oscar Joyce has proved that he's got the hang of this Mini.
If he hadn't been caught up in that incident on the first corner, he'd have been, leading the race, wouldn't he?
That's it. It might not happened yet because he's at 3 seconds behind. He is that bit quicker. I think Greg Jenkins has got the memo, hasn't he, that the cars behind are going pretty quickly. Stuart Coombs is going a lot quicker than he went in race 1, so whatever car issues perhaps he had earlier, or just getting back into the groove, he's certainly there now, just as quick as the race lead, and he is coming under pressure from the Mini newcomer, which is Oscar Joyce, in the Dean Stockton car that we saw out in that earlier race.
22 years of age, Oscar from Richmond in London. Nice driver DB race on the driver database. There was the 10th of November 24 at the Radical World Finals at Yas Marina.
Oh right.
Had a second place there.
So did he do SR3s as well?
Yes, he has done.
Yeah, I remember in SR1s.
UK Cup.
Yeah, I think I remember in SR1s a few years ago. I covered. What's happened in front here? It's actually seemed to be a gap where we weren't expecting it. But that's Paul Jenkins, back ahead of Morgan Barley. They've been caught by John Jenkins. That's what's changed there. And I think John's having one of his strongest races, isn't he? He's only about half a second off the fastest lap of the race. So then a bit disappointed the race didn't start as it should do for the Norfolk man, but John Jenkins is going really strong here, and he's caught the 2 cars ahead.
Yeah, and it's not the disaster that the race 1 was for John Jenkins when he was off twice at Redgate in successive laps. A much stronger run he's had here, and really now taking the fight to his namesake Paul Jenkins and to Morgan Bartley as well. Greg Jenkins turning his way through McLean's, pursued by Stuart Coombs and Oscar Joyce, whose lap times fluctuate a little bit, not such a quick lap as the 2 ahead of him on the last time through. But this is the battle to watch, isn't it? It's the fight for 4th position between number 77 Paul Jenkins, number 13 Morgan Bartley, and John Jenkins in number 64. Really good battle this for 4th position. Proper mini racing.
There's a lot more going on this race than the earlier one, isn't there?
Yeah.
Which is good to see. And let's say even more cars out there will produce even better racing in future rounds. So I think things look good as the season goes on for Mighty Minis. And the change happens again. Morgan Bartley back into 4th position, back ahead of Paul Jenkins. But John Jenkins has a thought about passing them both perhaps out of the chicane and up across the line. 3 abreast down towards Redgate Corner perhaps.
Yeah, it looked like that might be the case as Oscar Joyce is now with Stuart Coombs for P2 as well. It was about 6 tenths of a second faster than Coombs on the previous lap, and is going to be challenging the blue car for 2nd position down through the Craner curves here. Coombs very experienced in racing minis, but Joyce has been quick in sports cars, but having his first mini race this weekend. Didn't race the car in the early race because he's sharing it with Dean Stockton, both sort of artists in some way, shape or form. Professional doodler is how Oscar Joyce's website describes himself.
Right.
And he's still chasing after Stuart Coombs to try and get P2. With every lap that goes on, of course, the chance of the overall win is slipping away, isn't it? Because Greg Jenkins is just sort of consolidating that lead. He's 3.5 seconds clear of the 2nd and 3rd place cars.
Yeah. These minis don't seem to give off as strong as the slipstream as the low cost, do they? You can't sort of really easily pass somebody, it would seem, in these minis, although you can get obviously a good toe to have a go into the braking zone. There's Greg Jenkins, the race leader, the 2016 champion, the ex-Neil Fernley and Ben Butler car, leads the way, and he's into the 30s for the first time in race conditions, 1 minute 30.992, and that's really pulled the gap out to these 2, and Oscar Joyce is going to give this a go into Redgate Corner up the inside. Stuart King sort of shut the door, and I wonder if Oscar's a little bit knowing that this isn't the car that he's going to race sort of predominantly, I guess. It's someone else's car. If it was the Radical, I wonder if he would have sort of stuffed it up the inside a little bit more than what he just did there. Oh dear. It's Redgate again.
It's Redgate, it's John Jenkins. and it's not going any further, that car, I don't think, in this race. 5 minutes of the race left to go. OJ still trying to find his way past Stuart Coombs for second position. There's the race leader, Greg Jenkins, though. So I think we're down to 5 cars running, with John Jenkins having deposited his car in the gravel. Has he been helped there? Is that a dent? And has that dent emerged in the last few moments, I wonder? There's certainly a dent in the driver's door, isn't there?
He was behind at the line, wasn't he, in the other two? So not quite sure what happened there at Redgate, but it's certainly not his favourite corner on the Donington Park circuit, I wouldn't have thought.
Not today.
Ooh, that was tight as well between Morgan Bartley and Paul Jenkins. Bartley got through on the inside. There's Oscar Joyce still behind Stuart Coombs. Now John Jenkins is being pushed. Now we've seen other cars get out from this position. The Mini's not the heaviest car, but it's well stuck in the gravel. So I wonder if we might go one more lap here and then call it a race. There's not enough time for a safety car period.
No, there's not. Greg Jenkins is the leader by 4.8 seconds now as they go on to lap 11 of this race. There's the stricken John Jenkins car.
Well, the battle for the lead hasn't developed as we thought it might do.
And nor was the battle for second, actually, looking at it. Because the gap between Coombs and Joyce is much larger than it was in the background there.
Was that Oscar being much more respectful of the yellow flags, I wonder?
Maybe
he
so.
was right there behind, wasn't he? And at Redgate Corner, that gap has emerged larger.
Yeah, much larger than it was. It looks like it is Stuart Coombs still there in second. They have got the JCB onto the scene now.
There's a big gap in the traffic here, isn't there?
Yes. So can they clear this car and allow the race to continue? We'll see.
Well, we saw in the Swift circuit drivers be very respectful of yellow flags, and that allowed the race to continue. So if the Mini drivers are similar, and there was a lot more Swifts, to be fair, so
There was.
less drivers to need to be that respectful, and that's what the clerks of course tend to say in drivers' briefings, don't they? If you behave yourself under yellow flags, we can do it under local yellows, you can race around the rest of the circuit. There's sort of 1 3/4 miles where there's no yellow flags.
Yes, exactly.
So this is sort of how we like to see it being done. And indeed, the lap times have gone up by a couple of seconds, so that's obviously all done in the yellow flags, isn't it? Where everyone's backing off as they should do.
And in any case, we're into the last 2 laps of the race anyway now, because we've got less than 3 minutes of the race to go. And John Jenkins' car is gradually being towed away, taking a lot of gravel with it. It'll be leaving some lines in that gravel trap, I think.
So Oscar Joyce is closed in again, hasn't he? So he's going to give it a second go to get that position away from Stuart Coombs. Through the old hairpin they go.
And the John Jenkins car is nearly at the edge of the gravel trap now. There's Greg Jenkins in the lead of the race, number 7. 6 times a winner in the 2025 campaign, although he lost out on the overall championship to Ollie Samways by 12 points last year. Samways having more podium finishes overall.
Be 1 lap at the end of this, won't it?
Yeah.
Down to the chicane for Greg Jenkins, the 49-year-old. It's a 1992 Rover Mini, this. So these are sort of based on that last generation of classic Mini, aren't they? The predominant cars come from sort of the 80s and 90s rather than the sort of the historic Minis, but of the same shape. Now, are the yellow flags in at Redgate? They are. Oscar Joyce might be able to have a go at this.
Yeah, there's a good chance. He's in the tow, isn't he? He's probably a length or 2 behind the blue car of Stuart Coombs. And still he is there in those green light panels flashing down the hill at the Craners.
What's the graphic in where the number used to be in the old days on the Oscar Joyce Dean Stockton car?
Not sure.
Haven't got a look at it there. But there was something there in sort of the old positions where you saw the numbers on the door. Nowadays they're in the windows, aren't they, the race numbers?
Yeah, that's right. Still this battle going on as well between Bartley and Paul Jenkins. Paul Jenkins trying to recover. Having lost out to Bartley on the previous lap. Here they are. Through McLean's for the final time as we're coming down to towards 0 in this race. Already the race leader is going to be almost at the checkered flag, I would think, Greg Jenkins. So it's a good scrap between these two. So yeah, much more entertaining race overall and for this Mighty Mini encounter than the previous one. The clock's counted down to 0 now, and Greg Jenkins is just coming through the Robert chicane for the final time, and he is going to come home for a second win of the day in the Mighty Minis. Much closer for second, side by side over the line, in fact, between Oscar Joyce and Stuart Coombs, and it's Joyce that's done it by a 1/10 of a second on the run to the line. I think that was the only time he was ahead, wasn't it, of Stuart Coombs in the whole race. It was probably in the last few metres when it really mattered. Over the line, OJ takes second, Stuart Coombs SC takes third, Morgan Bartley fourth, and
MB.
Paul Jenkins fifth. Greg Jenkins, probably not too much of a surprise that he won that one, but there was plenty of entertainment behind Josh.
Yeah, I wonder if Paul Jenkins didn't have that moment at the chicane, if that would have changed the race at all, because he was ahead of Greg Jenkins at that point, and if that just held him back and Coombs and Joyce were that bit closer, I think it would have been a different race because their pace was very similar. But here are the results. Greg Jenkins the winner by just 1.8 seconds at the end. I think he backed off on the final corner. Oscar Joyce in second. That race to the line, he beat Stuart Coombs. Morgan Bartley was fourth, and Paul Jenkins was the last finisher, completing the top 5.
Yeah, John Jenkins and James Jenkins, father and son, sadly not making it to the checkered flag. Mighty Mini Championship, I think with bigger numbers, will continue at Silverstone on the 9th and 10th of May for rounds 3 and 4 of the championship. They go to Snetterton for their first triple header of the season on the 20th and 21st of June. It's Cadwell Park in July for another triple header meeting there at John Jenkins' favourite circuit, he says. Brands Hatch in August and Mallory Park in October round out the 2026 Mighty Mini Championship season.
Thank you very much. We're going to have to make this very quick because the Suzuki Swifts are on track now. We'll have a quick chat with Greg. Where is it? There he is. Greg, if I could just jump in a second. Greg. Hello, sorry. So 2 for 2, but were you just talking about how hectic that first lap was?
Yeah, I think going into Redgate, I was up the inside of John. He sort of lost it. I had to lose it, and then I think, well, it looks like someone's hit me up the arse as well. So we all had a bit of a whoopsie there, yeah, but come out all right in the end. Yeah.
2 for 2 though, you've got to be happy with it.
Yeah, that was a bit of a fight, that second one. Yeah, I'm surprised I was able to carry on, to be honest. I thought I'd blown it, but yeah, it was good.
Absolutely, well, congratulations.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers, thanks. Okay, I'll go with Oscar. So we didn't see you up on the top 3 earlier on. Second place, sorry, for the second race. How did that go?
Yeah, good. I mean, considering this morning I only did 2 laps in the car in practice. It's my first time racing a Mini, and I haven't raced since Abu Dhabi World Finals in Radicals. So, no, yeah, it's really good. I think, obviously, the contact at the first corner didn't help because I lost all RPM on my dash. So, yeah, no, it was good fun and really enjoyed it.
Absolutely, well, congratulations anyway.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, thank you. Unfortunately, the cars are going, so we're going to have to go to that. Didn't get a chance to speak to Stuart, but back to Ian and Josh.